Minister, I'm very fortunate to represent the constituency of Fingal, which has a very fast-growing population. It's served by the Northern Commuter Line, which at the moment is full to bursting. It's not even just at peak times, it is nearly all of the time now. I use the train myself. The alternative for many is, if they can't get the train, is to go to the M1, which, as I'm sure you will know, is like a car park for much of the morning. So we really desperately need additional transport to service the needs of my constituency, which is absorbing much of the housing need for North County Dublin.
Minister, 2 minutes.
The improvement just a second. Okay, yeah, we have it. It's Deputy O'Reilly, isn't it? Yeah, that's fine. The Deputy is probably aware that there are 3 significant developments underway in relation to expanding capacity on the Northern Line. These are the expansion of the commuter rail fleet, the expansion of the Dart fleet, and the electrification of the Northern Commuter Line and its integration within the overall Dart network. In recent weeks, Government approved the purchase of 41 additional intercity railcars. These additional railcars will be added to the existing rail fleet and will benefit commuters across the Greater Dublin area, including those passengers on the Northern Line. I am informed that once these carriages have entered into service, capacity on the Northern Line will increase by approximately 20% as compared to today, which I know will be a very welcome boost to capacity on the line. It is expected that these railcars will begin entering service by late 2021. The other 2 developments I referred to form part of the overall Dart expansion programme, a programme which will roughly double the capacity of the GDA commuter rail network. The first of these developments is the proposed significant expansion of the fleet. In May this year, the NTA and Éireann commenced a procurement pre-qualifying competition. Their intention is to put in place a 10-year framework to purchase a minimum of 300 trains and possibly up to 600 if needed. This fleet will be a mixture of fully electric fleet and bimode or battery electric fleet. The inclusion of battery electric fleet will allow them to be deployed on the Northern Line in advance of the second aspect of the broader programme, which is the subsequent electrification of the entire line up to Drogheda. In terms of timelines, the process of having rail fleet built is a lengthy one, and it will take between 3 and 4 years after the award of the contract before these new battery electric fleets start to be delivered, probably at the end of 2023 or 2024. Into 2024. It's not possible to confirm exact delivery dates until the fleet supplier is appointed. Timelines in relation to the electrification of the line will be finalised as part of the development of the programme level business case, which I expect to receive next year. But as mentioned, additional capacity will be added to the line in advance of that aspect of the overall programme.
The remainder will be included in the official report. Deputy Louise is the first question.
Minister, there's a pressing need for additional capacity now. So with passenger numbers increasing by a minimum of 5% year on year and capacity already lagging behind, there is a serious issue. Now, as you know, there's a by-election in my constituency at the moment, and people are considering, obviously, who they're going to pick. Myself and Councillor Angraves have been knocking on doors, but it gives you an opportunity, gives people an opportunity to think about where they live and what they want. The issue of transport is absolutely constant, right across the constituency. We have a very, very low level of worker participation within the constituency, meaning most people have to leave to go to work. They don't have a choice. We don't have a lot of employment locally. So they have to leave, and they are leaving in bigger numbers. They need to get into Dublin. They cannot get on the trains. I'm already receiving reports of people who are unwell on the trains because of overcrowding. So can I ask, Minister, that you would confine your answer to what you might be able to do to assist these people in the short term, because the need is now?
Minister.
Yeah. I accept fully those who say that there is overcrowding. That is absolutely undoubtedly true. I see it not just in the Deputy's constituency, but I see it at rush hour all around the Greater Dublin area. And, of course, the flip side of that is that public transport has become a great success. Publicly owned transport, which would appeal to the Deputy, is working very, very well, and the numbers have actually mushroomed in recent years. That's absolutely correct. What I've addressed here is short-term, medium-term, and long-term ambitions. If we were running trains which were empty, the deputy would be equally critical. But what we are trying to do is to respond to the problems that are created by a successful and booming economy, by near full employment, and by the fact that the public service has become the vehicle of choice for so many commuters at this time. And I'm not saying that in a self-congratulatory sense at all. I'm just saying that these are the problems which will arise whenever you have a successful transport system like this. It will become overcrowded. What we are doing, as I've listed already, is remedying it with a short-term, a medium-term, and a longer-term plan, which I have explained to the Deputy, but I'll go into in more detail when the
Final, yeah, one more
Council
question.
gives me a bit more time.
You'll have another minute, Minister.
Yeah.
Minister, with respect, it did sound a little bit self-congratulatory, if you don't mind me saying. So you see, if the economy in Fingal was actually booming, people wouldn't have to leave. There would be jobs locally for them, but there's not, so they do have to leave. The success, as you say, of public transport, it's a very, very odd measurement that the Minister is using, that he will say that the success of public transport is measured by the fact that it's overcrowded. In fact, that really speaks to a lack of capacity in terms of public transport. And the Taoiseach, who leads your government, is very fond of trying to outgreen the Greens, much and all as he protests that he's not. So if we are to move away from cars, and people want to move away from cars, and God knows nobody wants to be stuck on the M1, which is like a car park in the morning. If we are to move away from cars, we need to start doing it now. So people need the option of public transport now. What I'm saying to you is, it is not just at peak times, it is now all of the time. And in the absence of a legal entitlement to family-friendly working, which people do not have, so they may not be in a position to vary their working hours, they have to get on the trains, they have to come in, and people are becoming unwell because of overcrowding.
Minister, you have a minute to expand.
Okay, we're talking about rail, where there have been improvements introduced last year in peak time services, and this year in what the Deputy referred to as off-peak time services. But there are two fundamental constraints: the need to physically expand the fleet through the purchase of additional carriages, and also the need to improve the overall management of the network. And we're moving on that very quickly. On both. In relation to the fleet, I brought a memorandum to Government in relation to the business case for the purchase of 41 additional intercity rail cars, which Government approved. That was a couple of weeks ago. It's expected that this new fleet will be delivered in 2 years, by 2021. Separately, in May this year, the NTA and Inrodon commenced pre-qualifying in relation to a 10-year procurement framework for electric and battery electric units, which will massively expand the fleet, and that expansion will include the Northern Line, to which the Deputy refers. In the summer, the Government approved the development of a new National Train Control Centre, and contracts on this are expected to be awarded before the end of this year. In the medium and longer term, there's the ongoing development of bus connects, the DART expansion and Metrolink, each of which will obviously increase capacity very dramatically.